Hey there students, welcome to another edition of Mr. Macasa's Digital Lessons, and this digital lesson is dedicated to my 6th grade students, and today we are continuing on with your guys' Unit 3 2-column notes by looking at textbook pages 132 to 136 on Canada. This section is called A Multicultural Society. So this is the very last section you guys will need to do for your guys' 2-column notes on this one. So let's look at the main idea. The main idea says many immigrant groups have contributed to Canadian culture while preserving their own identities. Why it matters now, Canada's desire to safeguard its cultural diversity is one of the most serious challenges. So based on what we're seeing from the main idea and why it matters now, we go back to our notes. Primarily the things you guys will be looking at today are different sections. First of all, we're looking at social, which are cultures, values, traditions, and customs. We'll also be taking a look at religious, belief systems as well as religions as well. And another one that we'll be looking at too is a little bit on intellectual. These are scientific education, reason, thoughts, philosophies, primarily in the philosophies is what you guys will be looking at. Same thing with education on this part. Okay, so we'll be jumping between all three of these today on your guys' last set of 2-column notes. So let's go over to the information and let's get stuck in. So the Dateline says Montreal, Canada, 1893. Score! The Montreal Amateur Athletic Association team is the best hockey team in Canada and has a silver trophy cup to prove it. Canada's Governor General Sir Frederick Arthur Lord Stanley of Preston, that's his name. His name is Sir Frederick Arthur. He's a lord of this place called Stanley of Preston, which is in England, presented the award to the Championship Hockey Club of the Dominion of Canada. Many Canadians love this sport. First played by the Mi'kmaq, a First Nations people in Nova Scotia, ice hockey has spread across Canada and south to the United States. Competition for Stanley's Cup will make the sport even more exciting. So this is the Stanley Cup. Now, if you guys are hockey fans, if you actually know about the Stanley Cup is actually really small. That's actually the Stanley Cup right there. That's all it is. The reason why there's a big, huge base to it is because they put down all the teams that won it, and that's what makes it so big. But actually, it's actually a really small little thing. Now, it's interesting to notice that Mi'kmaq actually created the game of ice hockey. Now, today, when you play ice hockey, you wear ice skates and you skate around. But back during the time period of the Native Americans, they did play on ice like you do today, and they had goals and stuff, and they used sticks, but they didn't use ice skates. They just kind of basically ran around, in their moccasins and also in their boots and furs, and they just play with that. So it's very, very slippery, and that's why they liked it so much, because it's kind of a dangerous sport. It's actually kind of neat as well. So with that being said, let's go and get you guys started off. So Canadian identity. So this part here will primarily be under the social aspect of it. So we'll highlight that in yellow for the social. Hockey is one of the many good things about living in Canada. From 1994 to 2000, the United States nations rated Canada the best of 175 countries in a survey that examines the health, education, and the wealth of each country's citizens. Yet Canadians still take a national identity, or a sense of belonging to a nation to unite its many immigrant cultures. So that's one of the things that we're talking about here. Just like in the United States, we have a lot of different, we still have a national identity, even though we have different cultural groups. These are values that we all share for the most part. So as you can see here in Canada, you can see that they show the different languages that are spoken by different people in 2001. As you can see, the more populated areas have much more diversity of people who can speak both English and French and are bilingual. So because of that. All right, so languages. Many Canadians are bilingual, which means that they speak 2 languages. Look at the map and see where the bilingual Canadians live. Canada has about 2 official languages, which are both English as well as French. Literature, official documents, road signs, newspapers, and television broadcasts are in both languages. The 2 languages are not exactly like those spoken in England, the United States, and France. Francophones are French-speaking people. Canadian French, based on the French of the 1800s, is pronounced differently from the French spoken in modern France. Okay, so that's one of the things that's interesting as well. So it's kind of neat because they're a bilingual country. You actually see that in a lot of areas as well. So you see this sign below, you can see all of it's pretty much in French in Quebec, for example, because that's primarily where the French population lived in Canada for the longest time as well. Canadian English uses some words, pronunciations, and spellings are different from those used in the United States. For example, Canadians say taps and servettes when people in the United States say faucets as well as napkins. And the reason why is because these are from the British traditions. Primarily these come from as well. For about and house, Canadians might say about and hoose because they drop their O's in Canada. That's because a lot of the Nordic peoples that live in that area as well. Many Canadians write color for color. So for example, their spelling is very much European. And as you can see, they talk about that for theater, and check for check. The nation's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, ordered that all official Canadian documents be written using standards set by dictionaries written in England. And like I said before, like I talked to you guys about at the beginning of the year, the reason why we're not speaking with British accents and have British spellings for our words is because Noah Webster, when they created the Webster Dictionary, decided to break away from that and actually gave us the American accent to get away from England because we didn't like the English so much when we broke away during the American Revolution. So it's kind of interesting because even though Canadians and the people in the United States speak English, they speak British English while we speak American English, which is actually kind of interesting how that works out. All right, so this next part here, which is arts and entertainments as well, this will be going on to our different areas here. We're going to be doing this when it comes to our intellectual portions of this part. So I'll be highlighting this in orange for you guys to show the difference there. Canada's rich tradition in the arts, actively supported by government funding. All right. For example, the Canadian Council for the Arts gives money more than 8,400 artists and art organizations each year. Provincial governments also support regional arts programs as well. Canadians read many of the same newspapers and magazines and watch many of the same television shows and movies as do people in the United States. Canadian musicians such as Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Buffy Sainte-Marie. Okay, this book's showing its age now. Celine Dion and Shania Twain are popular in both countries. Canadian actors Dan Aykroyd and Jim Carrey are also from Canada as well. If you guys like Nickelback, Nickelback is also a band that's also from Canada. Just an example of that as well. Now we're starting to get into religion. So this is the section where we go here where it talks about religious beliefs, and so we're going to use a different color for that. Let's use green because we haven't used that one for a while. So religion. Christianity is widely practiced in Canada, but there are many other religions that are following as well, include Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, as well as Judaism. Some religions are grounded in a spirituality based on respect for Earth and all life forms of animals, for all forms of life. People of every culture worship as free to worship as they choose. These type of religion where it talks about Earth and all forms of life, that is known as animism. That's spelled A-N-I-M-I-mism, M-I-S-M, animism. That's the idea that everyday things that exist in nature, trees, animals, geographic features, these all have a life force on it. And these are primarily practiced by the Native American peoples of Canada, and that's the religion they basically have for the most part. Okay, so that's the part where it goes back to religion. Now we're going back to cultural regions, so we're going back to our social aspect of that. We'll be highlighting those in yellow. So I'll go back to our yellow color here. So most Canadian immigrants arrived during the 16, 17, and 1800s were European. Recently, more people have arrived from Asia as well as South America. People who share the same language and background often settle in the same area. As a result, Canada has various cultural regions or areas where many people belong to one cultural group live together. Cultural regions exist in different parts of Canada. Quebec is home of the many French-speaking people of Canada. In Nunavut, more than 50% of the people are Inuit, and almost 60% of the population in Vancouver are Chinese, mostly from Hong Kong. So because of that, we start seeing kind of like regions where different ethnic groups primarily populate at, just like we do here in the United States, for example. Getting different cultural regions to agree on national issues is sometimes difficult. The adaptation of the Canadian maple leaf as Canada's flag in 1965 was one of the most successful efforts to unite all Canadians. So conflict and cooperation. Languages, customs, and lifestyles differ amongst the different cultural groups of Canada. Sometimes these differences lead to conflict. For example, in the second half of the 20th century, some Canadians thought that the thousands of Chinese immigrants settling in the Vancouver area would change Canadian culture through their language and customs. In 1975, the government began reviewing immigration policy. Chinese groups in Vancouver organized a Chinese-Canadian conference. They asked for continued support for multiculturalism and that immigration laws remain open for all people. The concerned groups solved the problem through human rights laws. So like I said before, when they passed that multiculturalism law in the 1990s, this is one of the reasons why they did so. Just like we have here in the United States, when different ethnic groups immigrate to the United States, it also causes conflict for peoples for various reasons, and they still exactly have the same problems in Canada as we do. In fact, any country that has multiculturalism will always have this as a problem, just because, some people are racist, some people are bigoted that way, and, sometimes they don't get along in some cases, and that's one of the reasons why we have that. And it's kind of interesting to note that in Europe, this is a huge problem in Europe right now because the population of Europeans living in Europe is slowly declining, and so they're becoming more multicultural because of it. So they're starting to see the same kind of things like here in the United States and Canada over there as well. So there you guys have it. That kind of makes up this section as well for pages 132 to 132 to 136, and that pretty much ends up the reading pages for you guys' sections. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, remember all 4 of your sections are located in this one set of 2-column notes. Make sure you get that fully completed, and make sure you guys get your 2-column notes turned in by the due date. So that's going to do it for this one, you guys. If you have any questions, please message me on Schoology at any time. I'll be more than happy to answer your guys' questions. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll catch you guys on the next video lesson. Peace out, you guys.